Actually, I got back for 1 year. And then because my parents made me leave the circus and they were like, you have to come home for stability and for your, to be a normal child. And then I get back and a year later, they're like, we're moving the entire family to Sydney, Australia.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you? Hi, how are you both?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you doing this.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us on.
Of course. Leanne, are we good to go? Or
we're good to go. I'm gonna hop off and I'll leave you girls to it. But thank you all so much for doing this. And yeah, I'll speak to you soon.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leanne.
Thanks, Leanne. All right. Well, thank you both so much for doing this. My name's Adam, and this podcast is about the both of you, your journey in music, and we'll talk about the new music with Nick and Bone.
Yes. Very excited.
The first new music in what, 3 years? Is that what I read?
Yeah, that's
100%.
crazy.
Yeah. We were so lucky actually that like the entire pandemic thing didn't necessarily affect our music release that much because we had just released an EP in 2019 and then we'd been touring that for the entire year that year, and we were gonna take some time off. And
right. So then it kind of just landed that way. And you're like, okay, well, now we got all this time. Let's just
make another record.
Let's make another record. That's amazing.
Exactly.
I mean, the first year was kind of shitty though. We were like stuck at home.
Yeah,
so it was not the time off we expected.
Dope. There's a pandemic.
It wasn't great.
It wasn't the best, but
you made the best of it, I guess is where we're going. I think we're going with it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, again, thank you so much for doing this. So I guess let's start off. Cammy, where were you born and raised?
Okay. Okay. Why do I have trouble answering this?
I mean, I can answer for you if you want.
No, I know where I was born and raised. So I was born and raised on the South Shore of Montreal. So like just outside of the city. And then I spent most of my childhood there. And then I spent a few years in Australia and then traveling around the world a little bit, and then moved to
Tell
Montreal,
us why.
Tell us city.
Why.
What?
Tell us why you traveled the world.
Why did you travel the world? Now I need to know.
So
a love interest?
Imagine a love interest when I was like 11. That would have been fun. No. I was cast when I was 11 years old for a Cirque Du Soleil show. So
really?
So I went and traveled the world with them for like 2 years as like a young teen. And that
what you do in the Cirque du Soleil? Were you like one of the acrobatics?
No, I was a singer and main character.
No way.
Yes, a small main character myself.
Okay.
But that was super fun. And then we traveled in all around Australia, New Zealand, and then Singapore, Hong Kong, and California.
Wow.
So yeah, I did see a bit of the world as a teenager. But then I came back home.
That's so cool. Well, so what was obviously you were a singer, so you did really well. Did you? I'm sure you had auditioned for that role and all of that. But where did you start as far as music? Did you come from a musical household?
I come from a musical household in the sense that I feel like my parents are very musical, but there was no. My mom does have a degree in piano.
Oh, really?
But my parents don't like. Yeah, she does. But they don't work in music at all. But it was super important for them. For music to be a part of me and my siblings' education. So I started playing piano when I was 4, and then we got into this like music elementary school that had like I had cello lessons every single day, and then like musical history and all that, and it was like really, really great. And that just got me into like having music as like a very important part of my life at a very young age.
So cello and piano. Right away.
Yeah, and then classical guitar.
No
you
way.
played classical guitar?
I did. I was so small.
I'm learning so many things like already about you that I didn't know. I thought I knew everything about you.
This is my favorite thing about these interviews, especially when it's multiple people that have known each other for a very long time. It's like, I didn't know that. Like those are the best things. That's so cool. Wow. So your mom was has a degree in piano, but she didn't pursue like that as a profession?
No, then she went on to study, she has a degree in teaching also, and then she became a speech therapist.
Not a piano teacher.
No, she just, found her way through studies, but yeah.
Okay, well, that's amazing. We'll get back to you because that's a lot of cool information. I have a bunch of stuff earmarked here. But Laurence, where were you born and raised?
So I was born in Montreal, so I'm a little city girl, and now my childhood sounds very boring compared to Camille's. I mean, it was great. I studied music. So my parents were actually musicians. Well, my dad was, and he was a music teacher in primary school in Montreal, and he's also a blues man. So yes. I grew up very much in like surrounded by music, seeing shows all the time, and music playing in the house all the time. And my mom was working in music too, but more organizing the shows and the production aspect of music. So I was lucky for that because I was surrounded by music from a very, very young age. And
was your dad your teacher? Was your dad your teacher?
No, actually never. Like I've always had, and I wonder why, but I guess it's maybe better that way.
Right.
Like, probably.
I was wondering. Yeah. Did he teach at your school though? Or no?
No. Oh my God. Okay. He didn't want that. He didn't want me to go at his school. He was like, no, I'm your dad. Like you see me enough like that. And I see you enough. Do your thing. Live your thing.
I was going to say,
like,
because that could be a situation where you're like you made fun of it. Like
that would be complex.
I would have.
I'm sure like kids would just like ignore their parents and be like, at school, you're not my dad. At school, right. I do not know you.
But it was actually cool because then like when I had days off and he was working, I would go to his school and I was the kid of the music teacher and I would hang out in the classes for a day. So I was kind of like in the best position because everyone was like, oh, you're Monsieur Vincent's daughter. And then I was
cool girl energy.
Cool. I was cool for one day.
That's
and then
rad.
I back to reality where I wasn't that cool.
What instruments did you start off on?
I started with the piano, but I hated it. And then
although there's 3 behind you.
Yeah, well, it grew on me. But then, wait for it, I had private lessons of the recorder for 2 years.
Private lessons on the recorder?
Yeah.
A girl was going to get she was going to go.
I mean, I don't know why, but that was it. That was the one I picked for 2 years. And then I studied like, so these were private lessons when I was a kid, but then when I got to high school, I auditioned to get in this music program, classical program that was pretty awesome in this public school in Montreal, and I passed. And then I started playing the trombone, and then I got really, really hooked, and I studied that for like 5 years very intensively and played in orchestras and stuff. And so
well, okay, so you went from the recorder, you played recorder up until high school. Private lesson recorder.
I mean, on and off. Like I wasn't in love with it, but I liked playing music.
I'm in love with it.
But you are much more than me. But I think just two years of private recorder classes is just
that'll
too
do
much.
It for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't want to play. You didn't like go on to be like, I want to play clarinet or anything like that. It would just so trombone. That's an interesting transition.
Yeah, I remember when I saw this. Yeah, I saw this jazz concert with my mom, and I saw this jazz trombone player called Hugh Fraser. And I remember that moment when I heard that instrument and the stance it had, but it was so romantic at the time, but like very powerful also. I really fell in love with the instrument. And then when I got to high school, that it's the one I picked for sure. I like it, no doubt in my mind that's what I wanted to play. Yeah.
Aww.
Is that what you played? So you played that through high school, and then did you go into college?
Yeah.
Trombone. Is that where Milk and Bone comes from? Is it from the trombone?
No.
Yes, trombone.
Okay.
But yeah, no.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah. Never heard that before. But then again,
That's
I don't talk about the fact that I play trombone like a lot.
Well, that's perfect. That's what we want.
Yeah.
Okay, but now tell us what. Okay, because I love the where this story is going. Because then you got into college.
Yeah.
Our version of college here in Montreal, it's called Cégep. It's like between high school and kind of like we skip undergrad kind of to like do this.
Yeah.
Which is smart. So you actually get to pursue something for 2 years that you want to pursue instead of like taking all these classes that are useless. I just interviewed somebody like right before you, and we were talking about broadcasting and how you basically are paying for useless classes for 2 years. You're like, okay, I know I want to do this, so why am I paying to learn science and math when I specifically came here and asked you what major does not have science and math, and you're gonna make me do that? Like, and now I'm paying you $3,000 or whatever it is to do this. Anyway,
no, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to this. There's a between high school. What do you call it? It's not university.
No,
it's called Cégep here.
Cégep.
Cégep. It's
Sorry,
like collège. It's like
I don't even know
French.
I don't know what it's.
Yeah.
That's a French thingy. But
it's great. I mean, it's super cheap, and you get to try things and see like, is that really what I want to do before I like go to university and commit to something. So a lot of people stay more than two or 3 years in Cégep because it's so cheap. But I mean, why not? It's great. But this is also a fun part because this is where Camille and I met.
Okay.
So I started. I was a year older than Camille, and I started.
You still are.
I was gonna say that's where I was going, Camille.
Okay, it's true. I'll always be the older one. You'll always be the baby, the little baby. So I entered the program in the music program in jazz trombone. So I switched from classical music to jazz and did one semester. And then I was like, I always wanted to sing, but I never felt like I was good enough, and I had never took classes, and I was like, maybe it's the moment for me to try bad because I feel like I'll never do it otherwise. And so I asked if I could change my instrument and audition in singing, and they were like, well, sure, but you probably won't make it, because like there's a lot of people already in singing. And
so real quick, but had you ever singing? You were never in chorus or choir or anything prior to that?
I was in a choir. We had a choir class in high school. So
it wasn't like you just thought you could sing and you're like, I'm just gonna go for this. Like you obviously knew you had talent there.
And a little, but I was very, very, very shy and had no technique. So I was like, nah, it won't work. But I feel like I had to try it, and I got in.
Wow. What was your audition? What was your song? Do you remember?
Yes. Wait. It was. I think it was "Cry Me a River."
No, that was mine. So don't.
No, it was.
No way.
You sang "Cry Me a River," Julie London.
That was for university. For Cégep, it was. I got the light on my face, baby, on the window. Every time I'm on my bed, no, I'm in love. I forgot that. Anyway,
I don't know, but I would have let you into the school.
And then we had to improvise on a blues like form.
Scale.
Yeah, and that was actually really easy for me because my dad's a bluesman, so I had like grown up with like blues music playing all the time, so I knew the structure. I was super comfortable in it. Improvising was very natural for me, and so they were like, okay, you don't have the technique, but you obviously have an ear and a vibe, so we're gonna work on it. And then I got in.
She got in.
Wow. So Camille, where do you come into the story? Because where we left off was you were doing this touring thing with Cirque du Soleil, and were you also were you taking school like homeschooling type deal, or like when you get back, like when do you get back to Montreal, or you said outskirts of Montreal?
Well, when I got back, I was still living on this like the outskirts, but then I went to high school in Montreal, so in the city, and then.
But you guys didn't go to the same high school.
No.
Okay.
And then I had like 3 years left of that. Actually, I got back for 1 year. And then because my parents made me leave the circus and they were like, you have to come home for stability and for your, to be a normal child. And then I get back and a year later, they're like, we're moving the entire family to Sydney, Australia.
Stability.
Why? Anyway.
Wait, real quick. Sorry. Okay. So you were doing this touring thing and then your parents weren't with you. You're just going with this Cirque du Soleil.
My mom was there for the first year with me because at first I was just supposed to do like a year of tour with them because I was 12. My mom was like, let's only do 1 year. And then so she was with me for the first year. But I mean, I have 2 siblings at home. So and for that time, because if you're a minor on one of those like big shows, you have to be accompanied by someone. Like it's just not legal for you to be by yourself. So my mom was there with me, of course. And then the second year, she was like, okay, if you want to stay for a second year because you love it so much and it's so cool, well, I'm gonna have to go back home, so you're gonna have to be with like someone. So like we auditioned like substitute parents for me.
You auditioned them?
Yeah, I met with them and I was like,
did you have like a questionnaire? Like what was the like interview process?
My parents sure did.
Were you there? You were there?
Of course, because they wanted me to have she's gonna be with me for like a year. So I was like, I like this person. Anyway. And then so
that's
after 2
awesome.
years of tour, and I'm glad they took me out of it, honestly, because I would have never left. And I feel like a lot of people at that age, if you stay for such a long time in such a kind of like recluse and kind of like in a bubble type situation, I think it would have maybe like messed me up in some way more than I actually am. So I came home for 1 year, went to high school, normal girl, and then moved to Sydney, Australia, 1 year. And then came back, finished high school.
Okay.
And then I didn't do any music during that time except like writing songs at home. Okay. And then I wanted to do the audition to go to the same school as Laurence was talking about. It's called Saint Laurent. And yeah, I did. I wanted to get into the composition program and with vocals as my main instrument. And then when I did the audition, I was obsessed with this song, Cry Me a River, interpreted by Julie London at the time. I would just cry all the time listening to it.
Okay.
And so I sang that and then I got in.
Wow.
And then, yeah.
How did you get into the Cirque du Soleil? We didn't talk about that.
Audition. It was just like an open call. Because I mean, at the time, it was barely any internet at the time. I mean, there was. It was like 2002. Ish.
Okay.
Anyway, and then
there was I mean, I was in college around this time, so there's like
at
MySpace.
The same time, it wasn't
kind of
like
coming through around 2000.
100%,
Maybe not.
But
maybe it was Friendster.
But I feel like for auditions or whatever, it wasn't like on Facebook or whatever. Like, there's an audition, you can. So, like, my grandparents had heard on the radio that there was like an open call audition for young girls for Cirque du Soleil, and since we were at a music school, my mom was like, "Guys, we should go, because like you're not gonna get it." But like, it's a cool like experience to know what it's like to have an audition, and it's an open call. So like, just let's make a day out of it and like go do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I
was 9. I was 9 at the time, and they wanted me to. They had me come back later during the day, and they told my mom, they were like, we would have her leave in 2 weeks for Japan for a 2-year tour of Japan. My mom was like, hell no.
Oh,
my
wow.
child,
that's crazy.
Stay away from my child. And then because I was so young, my mom was like, hell no. And so what they did was like, okay, fair enough. But can we keep like training her a little bit so that maybe she can go like 2 years from now on the next tour. So like once a month I would go in and like have classes with them at the HQ here in Montreal. And then 6 months before I left, I like started going to school there full time and training for the role. And then on my 12th birthday, I left.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's so cool though. Wow. All right. And then you get back, and then you said you lived there for a year, you moved to Australia, then you moved back, and then you apply to get in this school, and then the two of you meet at the school. How do you meet?
So it's like it's a super cool school, and there's also like the music faculty that's like far away from a little bit like everything else. So we all kind of hang out once you have classes there, you don't really go back to the main building. You kind of like stay in the area, and they have like this little living room that's like the spot to hang out. and I remember I'm like an introvert, but my kind of like facade is that I look kind of like I have an attitude, and I'm not going to talk to you because I'm cooler than you. But inside, I'm like, I'm so intimidated and I am crying, you know? Okay. So I remember like walking around the school with like kind of like my super confident energy, but inside I was like, do you think they like me? Do you think it's okay for me to be here? And then I see this girl who's like super cool and looks so comfortable, and she's friends with everyone, and she's just like, oh yes. And I remember you kind of like having a nice aura around you that just made it so that I was comfortable, and I was like, she feels welcoming. She feels like someone that I could maybe be myself with. And then
I'm gonna cry.
And then, but it was back when I don't know.
My eyes are actually wet.
Do you remember the time where like you would just meet random people and you would add them on Facebook? Yeah. It was like you met them like one time and it was like, we're Facebook friends now. So I think that's what happened between us. We were like, oh, I know this girl. Let's add each other on Facebook. And then we started liking each other's stuff and then started hanging out. Is that how you remember it?
Yeah, totally. It's just funny because we both had like this feeling about the other that like I don't know, I want to get to know her. I thought she was like so cool and confident, and I was like, she looks like she figured out her shit, and she's like, I don't know, I was really impressed with like the level of confidence. And then like you said, it blah blah. Anyway,
just the facade.
The facade.
But we both like noticed the other and like wanted to connect, and then we did, and eventually we started playing in a band together as backup musicians and singers. And
with a band, established band at this time, or like tell me about this band.
So he's a singer from
you go.
He's a singer from Quebec, and he that was like both our first experience as like professional touring and like making a living out of music. And
did you both?
I mean, you say that. I just talked about touring with Cirque du Soleil for 2 years.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. Okay, it was my first experience.
No, but as an adult, no, but it's such a different thing. Yeah, it was both our first experience, like being on like it's so much more independent, like touring in a van and just like, you know, doing sound check and doing all the stuff. So it was really cool to have.
Did you audition together or or how did you know?
It wasn't an audition. Like Montreal is so small. Okay. I remember meeting that guy because he played with a trumpet player whose sister was in my class. And then she was like, you sing? My friend's looking for someone to sing. And then we met and we hit it off, and it was like, oh, cool, we can work together. And then so it's like, it's very like, I don't know.
Okay.
It happens like this.
And then both of you play with this person. And how long does that band go for? How long are you touring with this person?
I mean,
was it like 2 years?
Wow.
Yeah, on and off.
On and
like,
off,
again, like Quebec is small and huge at the same time. So you'll be touring and then coming back home after 4 days, you know, like it's like you leave for 4 days, have 4 shows, and then come back maybe the week later you have 1 show. Like it's not just like a 2-year long tour, you know?
Okay. And as you're working with this person, are you then trying to, you know, finish the school to go to a 4-year or go to university to continue studying music, or what's the plan at this point?
I didn't want to, but I felt like I had to. I was like, what am I gonna do after CEGEP? So I kind of auditioned to get in jazz singing in university, but I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get accepted because they only take 2 they let 2 singers in the program.
That's crazy.
So I was like, there's no way, like I'm still not the one with the most technique and everything. And I fucking got in.
She got in. Who was the other one with you that year?
Andréane.
If it was you, that would be, I was going to say, that would have been way wild. If it was the both of you, the only
no,
two
she
that
was a
got
year
in.
younger, so.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I kind of did the audition certain, like being certain that I wouldn't get in, and I was like, nah, that's perfect. Like I'm gonna take a year to do music and work and maybe travel. Like a year off, it sounds amazing, and I got in. But so I did one semester there, and eventually started touring too much, and I just dropped off. And my family was like, yeah, it makes sense. So they supported the choice, which I'll forever be grateful for. And from there on, I never stopped working and touring, and so I'm like incredibly lucky.
Wow. Did you end up going to university as well, Camille, or at this point, like when did you guys start Milk and Bone?
So when I got into the Cégep program, like, because there's a program that you can stay at for 2 years. That's like the normal, like between high school and university type situation. And I wanted to do the 3 years because that's when you could do composition. And there was like, I studied to write music for like orchestra and like small ensembles, and then also like production. So that was like my favorite thing. And my parents were already kind of like not happy with that, because they were like, you're going to be off track with everyone in your class who at your age are going to be like graduating with their bachelor's and then their masters and stuff,
and they're going to be doctors and
exactly. I was like and then so they were already not happy with that. And then afterwards, when came the time to like, you know, apply for universities and stuff, like I'd always wanted to study business. But then I was like, okay. So basically my choice at the time was, I'm so busy with touring that I'm either going to have to take a break from touring and do my studies, or put a break on the studies and just do the touring. And since I was going to study business, I was like, business studies are always going to be there, you know, like
business isn't going anywhere.
Exactly. But I was like, especially like studies, you know, like it's not like I had like a job op or something that was like, I need to take this or something. But the op was there for music. And I was like, hey, like I'm always going to be able to go back and study business, maybe in my even in my 30s if I want. But like right now I'm 19 and I am going on tour. So that's what I did. And then I never went back.
Wow. Okay. And then when you two, because at this point then, Lo, you're going to university, Cammie's here and still doing that, but you guys are touring together with this artist. And then how do you start the band?
Okay, so that was fun. Sometimes I'm having a hard time remembering exactly how it happened, just because it happened so naturally and we didn't think about it.
Yeah.
So we basically, being on tour with this artist, we were both singing harmonies. And that was something that I was missing so much from school, like being in choirs and just harmonizing with friends. And then we were having so much fun together because I felt like we were both able to take the lead, but also blend together so well because we had studied and been in choirs and stuff. So I was having the best time doing harmonies and like singing with Lo. So I think at some point, tell me if you remember anything else. But I remember at some point we were like, we should take a weekend and like go and write. And then my parents had this like beautiful country home, like a 2-hour drive away from Montreal that was like super reclusive, like just like in a field, gorgeous. So we're just like, let's isolate ourselves there and then try to write music together. And it was so cute. It was
so cute.
No.
Were you writing real quick? Lo, were you writing? Because it sounds like Camille, you were writing songs early on. Is this a new venture for you, or were you...
Honestly, kind of. I had written like a couple of songs before, but I feel like since I always trained in classical music, the sheets would tell me what to do all the time, and I would just
encouraged.
So I think that's also why I decided to go in jazz music, because I felt like I needed more freedom and space.
Yeah, you can kind of improvise more.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of it's improvisation. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. And I love that aspect of it. And so it was kind of new to me, and I felt very insecure about it, but also very drawn to it. because it was new. It was something I had like no roots in. Like I didn't know how you start, how like is it, I didn't know if I was super critic because when you start you suck. And well, it's true in anything, you know. But I think also it was good to have Camille in that period also, because you have someone to like lay on when you're like super insecure, or like someone who can help you push your writing skills further, or help like motivate you or comfort you when you're like, oh, that sucks. And then sometimes Cammie's like, no, it doesn't. Or it's like, oh, okay. So I think it was actually perfect. I don't know if I don't think I would have pursued anything solo at that moment at all, because way too insecure about my skills. So it was perfect, and so it was all pretty new to me, but I had the desire for it. I felt like I wanted to do that so bad.
So then you both go to this cabin or your parents' spot, and you start writing songs. And how does that turn out? Is that when you leave with an EP
it's
or
bad.
Something?
It's so bad.
Is it?
Oh, it wasn't that good.
Do you remember?
We should find those old demos, but I remember it's like some things were like a little cringy.
But we had New York, didn't we?
Well, New York New York. Like I had started working on it before, but we didn't.
But it was
start
something that we explore. No,
True. No, you're right. But the one we started at the cottage, we're like, woo!
Yeah. No, I know, but at the same time, I feel like if all the things that we did at the cottage had been terrible, maybe you would have been like, let's not. But since that was the one time that you brought like New York on the table, the song New York. And then you were
which is a huge song for me.
Which exactly. So like at that point, it was kind of like, oh, we have the song that feels really cool.
Yeah.
And then got it produced by a friend at the time. And then it was just SoundCloud by then, you know, we didn't have like any. And like what's so funny with like the Montreal music business is that it's so big but so small at the same time. It's so self-sufficient but so supportive, but also like it's strange, you know. And then I remember us like releasing that on SoundCloud and not really thinking much of it, and then it blowing up. And then the media and like our peers here in the industry, I think they weren't expecting anything from us because we had just been like the friendly backup, like back vocal,
right?
And, like, piano, like help, like just like on tour with the people. And then for us to like come up with that song, and the support from the media was like instant, and then from the blogs around the world as well. So that was like our like first kind of like we're here.
And that was with New York, or was that a song after? Oh wow,
that was with New York.
Okay, so you put that up on SoundCloud and just thinking nothing of it, and then it just starts taking off. And are you watching this kind of in real time, like
in real time? And then I remember us being on a little cloud and being like, let's go meet record labels now. Like kind of thinking we were like hot shit, and being like,
yeah, of course, the first song you put out.
I love that you say that, because me, I was like, this feels very abstract. I don't know.
I was like, we're hot shit.
But I mean, you must obviously validation right out the gate with that. You put the song up, and then it starts doing really well. And then what goes from there? You said blogs are picking it up, and then you get all this. You're getting all this attention, and are people like, where's the other music? And then are you concerned with, are we going to be able to do this again, or like what was going through your head at that point?
I mean, we like the us making New York was also like just so natural with what we were listening to at the time, and it just felt like it wasn't like something magic we created. It was like Lo's writing and like her like very real pain and story from what she was going through at the time, and then us producing it in the way that just felt right and felt like what we were wanting to hear at that time. So for me, like when that blew up, I didn't feel like shit. Like, are we going to be able to do that again? It was just like amazing. What we're going to do is what people want to hear right now. So let's do it.
Yeah.
So we rushed to make our first record that was a super short record.
We released Coconut Water before we released
true
as a single, second single, and it went super well too. And then
I remember like us, releasing, having like a bunch of press ops, and then releasing our first record, having like a line around the block, and people still talk to me about that to this day, about like not being able to get into our show.
That's crazy.
Really?
That was
that
crazy.
Your first show? Was that
It
your
was
first
so sick. Yeah.
Yes.
And then at 5 in the morning, we were flying out to South by Southwest, and we were like starting like, and just like having all these showcases, and it went so well.
What? Okay,
God,
hold
true.
on. That's crazy. Okay, so New York's the first song. It starts blowing up. Does really well for you, and then you put out Coconut Water, which is also another hit right out of the gate. And then are you talking to labels at this point, or you're like, okay, we need to just get this record out? Okay.
Yeah.
So
we
released discussion. Go ahead.
We released the album with the record label somehow.
Yeah.
And we're still working with them now.
Yeah.
Little family.
We went to meet record labels in Montreal. It was like super important for us at the time to just like we were super weary also of like signing. I remember, it was like the beginning of streaming, and some people were doing it without a label, but it was like the switch in between like CDs and people buying records on iTunes and stuff, and then Spotify, like it was just the in between.
True.
So part of us was like, oh, should we do it by ourselves? Like, how's that going to work? So even meeting record labels was like, okay, but if we do, like, let's make sure we know the people and we trust them, and we're not signing. It was important for us also to be like, to own our masters and to license the stuff, and to not like just like give sell our stuff away. So, and then we found Bow Sound, who are still our family to this day, and who have been working every single one of our releases. And they're the best. Yeah.
So did you have so you put out those 2 songs, but did you have the full record out, or not out, but ready and written? And so,
no.
Okay.
We had to rush that.
You had to rush that. So do you have enough songs? Like, how was that?
No, nope, none of it.
We started writing.
We
were just like, let's go, let's write.
Yeah.
And then Pressure is like
that?
was that the next single you put out? Because that one just went even more nuts.
Yeah.
Pressure.
So you have
is
3
so
hits in a row.
Yeah. But Pressure is the one that almost got. I remember bringing that song to the gang and to the producer and being like, I like this. And then when it was time to choose the songs on the record, the producer wanted to cut it. He was like, I don't think. He was like, I'm not sure.
Because we couldn't find the direction for it. Like, it took a long time for us to find like the right identity for the song, and we tried like so many versions,
so many things,
and it didn't work. And I was like, but then, thank God.
And then it's our most played song. Is it, or is it not?
I don't know that one. I'm just looking at that record on Spotify, and that one has
I'm gonna go find out.
9 million plays.
I mean, I'm having a race right now between Natalie and
Natalie's
Pressure.
beating it by like 50,000 streams.
But like it keeps being close. Super close. So
they're
it's
neck and neck.
Neck and neck to the 10 million.
Yeah, who will hit 10 million first? I'm going to keep an eye on this.
Yeah, me too.
I'm going to keep an eye on this. This is cool. Okay, so I mean, to have that song then is this song out prior to the album as well, or did that song come out with the record?
No, I think that was on the record.
Yeah,
I know it's on the record, but was it? Oh, so the record comes out and that's the single with the record. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So
I don't even think it was a focus track. I think it was just like on there. Was it?
I think it was.
What blows it up? Anyway, SoundCloud? Still SoundCloud?
It was Spotify.
Yeah,
it was
like
Spotify.
the switch. Yeah, it was like you said, it was really that moment where the switch was happening, and we're like, okay, we have to take part in this like Spotify thing and use it, and
it
so
went super well.
Coconut and New York were mostly on SoundCloud, but Pressure was our first like big hit on Spotify.
Yep.
Okay. And prior to that, were you getting like radio play in Canada? Like, how are people finding out that you're doing this show and have this, massive line of people trying to get into this show? Because I've seen a lot of artists, really, because a lot of artists aren't able to turn streams into ticket sales.
that's what's crazy about like our beginnings, and I'm still trying to channel that sometimes with like what we're doing now. It was so effortless, but at the same time it was so perfectly what we were supposed to do at the time for the type of music we were doing, and the focus audience too, because we were just like catering to ourselves but other people, you know what I mean? Like it's just like our generation at the time is on Facebook and they are on Instagram and on, you know, and I've always had like such a passion and maybe obsession with social media and just like studying strategies and like I don't know, I'm just always on that shit. So I remember I
wish I could be that way. I'm such a failure when it comes to that.
I wish I could be not that way sometimes. But at the time, like all the events in the city were just like on Facebook events. And
oh my god, yes, I forgot about that.
And then our first show, so like release party for the first record, I think the capacity was like 400 people in the venue because it was just like a small, like, you know, and there were like 7,000 people attending on the event.
Oh wow,
really?
Yeah. And I was like and then people still talk to like the venue we had the show at is like it's a beautiful like art gallery and center, and they have a venue within it. And what they did, they were so cool, they installed like cameras and screens in the other rooms, in the galleries, so people like outside of the venue would watch the show on screens, like in the same building but not in the room.
What?
That was crazy. It was crazy.
So and some people were lucky enough to be in the venue to see you guys live, and everyone else was outside in this gallery watching via like a live stream.
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh my gosh, that is so crazy.
All our first stuff was on Facebook and the beginning of Instagram as well. We were just like on there, and then we had like a weird branding at the time. I remember like I would translate every single post we did in French and English and Japanese for some reason.
Oh, you can speak Japanese as well?
And no. And then it was just like
just Google Translate.
Well, yeah, 100%. But no, and it was a fun time also, like creating our identity. Like we were in this like very creative community in Montreal with like our friends being photographers and directors and like all of that. And I remember like our first music video for New York we did with Megan. And like that was just
like my best friend, my first friend in high school, she did. So like it was a lot of that, like a lot of like friends helping and
each other.
But it's so cool because really having other friends that are that creative too, right? I mean, what are the odds that your friend from high school can put together anything that's worth it? You know what I mean? Like I have friends in high school that thought they could do these things, and it's like, well, you know, at what scale, you know, what level? So that's
you
cool.
you get to find out like who, you know, where we're at now. I think it happens pretty quickly where you find out like who's actually like gonna do this for themselves and make it happen for themselves, and who maybe it was mostly a hobby, you know.
Right. And with it, so the show happens, everything's going obviously extremely well, and does the label go, it's time to hit the road, we need to get you out of Montreal, or what do you do from there? Obviously, you know, Natalie's a huge hit for you all, and that wasn't on the next record, it was just a single. I'm curious to know with that record gets a bunch of award nominations. Wasn't it for like a Juno Award?
We were nominated for like breakthrough artist, and then
like what? I mean, that must be so surreal to have, you know, it's such a, not to say that it was like this real fast thing, because obviously you both had been grinding. It's not to say that like, oh yeah, we just wrote this song and you know it became this hit, but it's like
still it was super quick.
It was quick as a duo, but it wasn't. But you had been working as, you know, musicians your entire lives, so I don't want to like discredit that. But to have your first thing happen and then, you know, so quickly, and then it's up for a Juno Award, you must have been, being from Canada and Montreal, like watching the Juno Awards is this huge, it's the biggest thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Grammys.
But it's fun because when it happens, I feel like it's so surreal and it's so big that it's hard to really realize what's happening. I mean, it was like that for me. I feel like it's all words and things that it's hard to really realize what's happening. And I think it took me a couple of years to really understand how amazing it was, or like the beginning of these projects, because when it happens, you're just like, well, you're in it. You don't have the
you're busy, you keep
distance
going, you're like, okay, do this, do this. Okay.
And it's so intense and you never stop, and you move, you talk to press, like there are so many things you're doing and you're always busy that you don't even have the time to realize what's actually happening. And I guess in a way,
kind of take it in and like, okay.
Yeah. And I guess in a way,
wow.
it's maybe good because it can be like very scary to realize those things. Cause like when you get there, you can also like fall from it. You can like lose it. But now when I think about this era, I'm like, damn, we did so many things. And I think it's beautiful that people believed in us before we did, you know. Like it's as if the audience were like, oh no, you have a thing, you do it. And it's like, okay, well, I guess we do. And then we build confidence, and then we just got better at what we did. And I don't know, I kind of like how this project started, because it wasn't forced. It was out of passion and love and friendship and desire to make music for us. And it's just like a big,
it's authentic, and people resonate.
It was
with
for
that.
jokes.
It wasn't just, well, I mean, it wasn't.
No, but you know what I mean? No, but what I mean is that it was just like two friends coming together and being like, hey, do you want to do this? Like, there was no expectation of like, I mean, just naming the band. Like, we were doing music together, and we were like, and it was just like, oh, I guess we have to like find a name for this thing. Let's go. But like, there was no ideation of like, so now we're gonna be a band and it's gonna be called this, and then this is where we're going. There was none of that. It was just like, do you want to do music together? Okay.
Here's our logo. We're gonna spend all this time creating this, like the back end stuff. It's like, let's just hang out and do this. Where does the name come from? I'm sure you've heard that question 10 billion times, but I'm curious now.
10 billion. And to this day, it's still kind of like, I'm like, oh my gosh, it really is like naming a child. I feel like, you know what I mean? Or a dog. It's like, why do you name your dog that? Like, sometimes there's a meaning and sometimes there is no meaning. And I feel like for us, it's just like, it was just, we need to name this duo.
Let me just really honestly just put two words we liked together and thought it sounded great and went for it. It's like, okay, well,
we like milk and we like bones.
So funny, because I'm lactose intolerant and I'm the milk in this equation.
Right. I thought the bone came from trombone. I was like, okay, that makes sense. But where does milk come from? But I was completely off.
No, I think we just started, like, when we write, a lot of the time we like to put some, like, a list of words that we like and start from that, or like, and we did that for just brainstorm.
Gotcha.
So there's no like exciting story behind the name.
I was just curious because I thought again, I thought it was from the trombone, but it wasn't. So real quick, well, coming from two musical households, I mean, having a mom that was a piano major and your dad's a music teacher, and them seeing this thing happen for the both of you, and then being nominated for a Juno Award, like, tell me their reaction to this stuff.
I wanted, so like I told you before, like, it was a problem for my parents for me not to follow like my friend's path of like, you know, maybe not going to university or something. So like every single time that I like something happened that was good, and like the more security I got with this project and like my life as a musician, the more I was just like, see?
Yes.
See?
I have that same animosity towards my family.
Are you ashamed? Are you ashamed that I didn't do the thing that you wanted me to do? And they're like rolling their eyes and they're like, no, you're good.
They're so proud of you.
Exactly. But I'm just like, see, what would you have wanted me to do? A boring business career? No.
Right.
So now I just tease them because all they wanted was for me to be safe and to be secure, and I know that. But I'd like teasing them about it. But they're very
I mean,
proud.
coming from this world is so different. I mean, not this world, but like this career path that you chose, anything creative is so up in the air. I mean,
oh yeah,
absolutely. And then they come from a generation where, like, if you didn't have a bachelor's degree, like it was like a problem, you know, if you wanted to fall back on your feet. And I mean, I think
right.
I'm gonna.
What about you, Lo? Like having your dad as a teacher, a music teacher, and then you're coming to your, you know, his class, and you're the cool girl for that day or whatever. Now it's like,
cool girl.
And then now your dad's got to be like, oh yeah, my daughter's up for a Juno, or like, you know, that's so cool.
Yeah, well, they're very, very proud of me. I mean, they're proud of me as much as they're proud of my sister, who's not at all in this business too. I think they're just happy that I found something that truly makes me happy, and that I work hard in it and keep pushing myself to get better. But yeah, they've been so supportive, and my mom is like the cutest, because she's like wants to be there in every show and like post about everything, and like very proud mom. She's really cute. So no, I'm super grateful for that.
That's awesome. Okay, and then now let's talk about Natalie, because that's the neck and neck song with you know, within
Pressure.
Your streams. Yeah, but within with Pressure, but as far as streams go, tell me about that song. And that comes out as the next release after the album. Oh no, you had Poison first.
That's a funny one. Poison. Natalie's a funny one because it comes out of, it wasn't a song that we wrote as a song that was meant to be released at first.
Yeah.
That was
similar to Pressure.
Yeah.
Like.
Actually, this one we wrote because we were scoring a movie, doing the movie for a film, and then we wanted to write the song for the end credits at the end, and that was Natalie. And then we were just like, this is good. I think this is good. I think we should release it. And then it was like kind of like discussions as to like if we should do it or not, but it was kind of like up in the air if it was going to be like a Milk and Bone song. And then turns out it's our most played song ever.
That's crazy.
Wow. Yeah. So did it make this film that you were scoring as well?
Yeah. I mean, we got nominated for it. We got nominated for it in the like movie
Canadian Screen Awards.
Blah, blah. Yeah.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
What was the film?
It was a film. It's called King David. It was a film and an adaptation from a play, but in Quebec. So it's like a French thing. But yeah.
So you guys were asked to do it, and you did, and that's probably a different part of your brain as far as music goes. 100%. Writing something like that.
Oh, but we love it so much. Yeah, it's great. It's so much fun. So much fun.
So did that add, like, tell me how that changed things? Did it just continue to validate your career and, you know, push you through more touring and like having that song do really, really well? How did that continue? Like what was the milestone as far as that piece of your story went?
I think it was just like, it kept confirming that we were headed in the right direction. And especially it being, you know, in between our first big record and then our second record. And for us, I think it was like very stressful. I think as it is for any artist that has success with their first release, is to come back with like a second record and for it to be, you know, hopefully as major as their first. And so I think to have Natalie in that time was kind of just like a stamp of approval of like, what you're doing is good and just keep going, you know? And then we released our second record, which also did super great. And that was kind of like a lot more produced and a lot more powerful than our first record. And
that's the one that people are always concerned about. I mean, as artists, right? Because your first record 100%. Is really well. And then can we follow this up with another record or the sophomore album, like, the big one? It's
either like, because like some of your fans want you to do the exact same thing as the first. They want the exact same, but like new songs, but like same vibe. They want to be doing the same activities, you know, as it's same thing. Yeah. And then but then we as women are growing and we have different stories.
You want to evolve as a musician and artist and your sound. And
so it's always kind of like, where are we going with this? Are people going to follow? And it's just a matter of like letting go and just being like, let's do the record that we want to do.
Yeah.
And then, because like if we do it for anybody else, then if it goes well, we're gonna be like, well, we did it, then it did well because we did it for the people. And if it doesn't do well, we're gonna be like, well, we're disappointed because we should have trusted ourselves.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we just did this second record, and then yeah, it was so much like stronger and more powerful and like sadder, always sadder.
Yeah, true.
And then that's where we won our Juno for that one, for electronic album of the year.
Yeah.
So-
Wow. So then you obviously you're nominated again and you win this time. What was that
Yeah.
like? Are you
Oh
at the
my
awards
God.
show, like
Yes.
going up on the stage and
It was insane. That was insane. I remember like when they said Milk and Bone, Camille yelled so loud and high. Like it was such a high pitched yell. And
We really didn't think
I
so.
was like, we never thought we would win. Never.
No.
And so I don't know. It was surreal. It was really surreal. And
we were in the middle of this like big, we had been touring like that.
Yeah.
That record for us was like our big touring record. We went out, you know, for a tour in the US, and then we did Europe, and then we did like Canada, and then it was like super intense. And then yeah, it was really a lot of work, that one.
was
So I
that like a
think when
headlining tour or like or were
Yeah.
you doing support
We did-
shows before or support tours before that?
we did
or-
Europe as a support for this other artist. That was great, but like it wasn't necessarily the best match musically.
Mhm.
So but it was so much fun doing the tour with her. And in the US it was a headline tour, and in Canada same. And then we
Wow.
had Dizzy as our opening act with us at a few of the shows, which was awesome.
That's so
But I
cool.
think, yeah, you know, like winning that Juno in the midst of that really intense moment
Uh-huh.
was kind of like a very because we were working so hard and we were
Yeah.
exhausted
Yeah.
at the time.
Just
Yeah,
another
I think
validation.
It was such a
Yeah.
great validation, and
It
just
felt
being
good.
like, holy shit, like we're so proud of ourselves and we're working so hard. But it's nice also to have the industry and the people being like, hey, actually like,
We
also
notice.
think that
Yeah, we
great,
see
and we're
you
Yeah.
and you're doing
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so that was a really, really great thing. And I mean, like, it's right in front of me right there, but like it's
Oh, let's
such a
see
beautiful
it.
object to have.
Yeah. It's really beautiful. Like
Oh.
showing off the trophy and never do
No,
that.
I love that. That's what I want to see. Oh, do you
But
have your
I'm so
trophy, Kenny?
proud.
Can you grab your trophy? I want to see 2
Yes.
trophies.
Okay.
I can show you 3.
Oh, let's see the other trophy. I want to see all the
This
trophies.
one is from like best. It's from Quebec.
Ah, that's so cool.
beautiful. What's happening?
And you know what? Like sometimes people will come to my house and be like,
I
"Oh,
hate
you're
this.
showing off your trophies," and I'm just like, "Hell yes, I am." Like
If I
I'm-
had
I'm
those,
s-
you'd open my front door and they'd just be displayed in like this huge
Yeah.
case and like
I'm
lights.
super proud of these.
You should
Yeah.
be.
And I think they're gorgeous and they're nice, and I've worked so hard for them. And like I know it's sometimes like when I don't know, like if you're feeling a little bit insecure and you walk into someone's house and they have trophies, you might feel a little bit like, "Ugh." But when I walk into a person's house and they have like their plaques or whatever with like the platinum or whatever, I'm just like, wow, like, you know, this person is proud of their stuff, and I want to be proud of my stuff. And they're super
Right.
heavy, so I can use them for my work.
Ah, that's so rad. That is so rad.
This one
Well-
was show of the year
Yeah.
because we have a
Wow.
really good show if you want to come see our show.
Are you playing Nashville soon?
Are you in Nashville?
Yeah, I'm originally from San Diego in California, and I
I
born
would
and
love
raised
to play in
there.
Nashville.
And then I
We-
moved to San Francisco.
We played in Nashville once.
I was
You
gonna say we did play
Yeah.
Nashville, and it was one of the most fun shows.
It was so
It
fun.
was so cool.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay,
remember the
well,
venue.
you need to come
I can
back.
find
But
it out,
I'm
but-
so new to Nashville. I mean, I only lived here or moved here like a little over a year ago. So
Okay.
did you ever
Okay.
play San Diego?
Never.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I
No,
didn't
it-
miss you. I was so that's my reason why I haven't came to see you. You haven't played any. The
See,
towns
that's
have been.
No, but we're definitely going to be coming back to Nashville with our next record, because I remember it being so fun.
Yeah, it was great.
So fun. And I also love playing, you know, a music city. Like,
Yeah.
because they're all so different, but like playing New York is sick for a certain reason. Playing LA is also sick for a different reason. And then I remember in Nashville, it was just like full of love. I feel like the
Yeah.
music scene in Nashville is like super supportive, but also like gritty, and people just want to make it work, and they're working hard. So they're supportive, you know, and it really felt that way.
That's cool. That is cool. Have definitely noticed that living here.
Yeah.
The everyone's very uplifting to each other, and you know, in their career and path. And in other cities I've been to, it's more like
It's not
chop
the
them
same.
down to get. I gotta get
Exactly.
ahead. Oh wow. Real quick, just because you both came from a definitely not an electronic world. Like, where did that kind of come from?
I remember. I mean, we come from not an electronic world, but that was definitely something that I started listening to quite young.
Yeah.
I remember, well, you know, I always listened to pop, like very pop, and then a lot of it was electronic in the days that I was like listening to it. And then as soon as I got into MySpace and like as a teenager, like being a bit of an emo kid or whatever, it was all electronic. It was all in that scene, that kind of like dark, like those like very fuzzy like synths that have grit to them, and it always made me feel like emotions. Like that's the way that I express my emotions. That's the way that I want to feel them. So, and then coming from there, I also had a dubstep phase in school. I was like obsessed. I was like, give me low end. Like I want to feel that in my chest. And that was so much fun. And I remember when Lo and I started doing music together. Do you remember Songza?
Oh my god. There was this amazing playlist. What was it?
But like Songza had the best music editors. They had the best music editors, and then they got bought out by Google Play, and they should have kept the Songza.
Oh, the programmers.
Because I don't know where they went, but like I hope they're all living amazing lives and they're happy, because they made like those years for me.
I hope so too, because I come from radio and programming a radio station, and seeing how that has drastically changed.
Oh, for sure.
Like I hope the best for those people that kind of were pioneering that.
Because like it also like
scene.
changed my entire like what I was listening to in those days. And like I remember sharing so many songs. Like we had playlists together that I was just like, these are so sick.
Yeah.
And I think this was like also a specific moment in both of our lives where we listened to the exact same thing. Like we had like, because we both listened to like different music, but like we had kind of like the playlist where we were like freaking out over the same stuff. Yeah. And those years were also like the Purity Ring.
Oh my god, true.
And it was big Purity Ring. It was big Fantagram. It was like all of those, you know?
Yeah.
So I remember like us kind of like taking stuff from there. And then I like the fact that like our, you know, on the first record for like New York and like other songs, like we'll have like a part of the song, and then we'll go into kind of a drop, and we'll stay in the drop for the end of the song. And that was kind of like not a normal thing to do at the time, like pop music. And I think we grabbed that just from maybe us listening to electronic music and not needing to have a normal structure. Or I don't know
where it comes from, because you're right, it's not like.
Did you guys like Shiny Toy Guns and those type of bands too? No?
I like this is like when I was talking about my emo phase and like MySpace time, that was my band.
Oh really? Okay. I love that band. Okay, they're your band. I loved borrowing them because I saw them play San Francisco when they did like a reunion thing. They hadn't played in a long time, and then they did like a one reunion show.
I would die. Like they are. I remember, like I think also in those years when you're like 14 or something, like your emotions are never the same, like as heightened as like when you're 13. But I remember listening to "Don't Cry Out" by Shiny Toy Guns and just being like, bury me to the song. Like I will if I ever die, I want people to find my iPod and for it to be playing "Don't Cry Out" by Shiny Toy Guns, and they can say in my obituary that I was listening to that song, you know?
They just read the lyrics to the song at your wake. Oh man, that's funny.
Gosh.
Okay, so you did like that
Shiny Toy Guns so much. I can't believe you brought that up. Wow.
Oh yeah, those are the bands I'm thinking of. Like you said, Fanagram. I'm like, okay, Purity Ring, and then like the other ones that would come to mind, like Shiny Toy Guns was a big one in that time period.
100%. They were so important to me.
Well,
and,
I want Sorry, I was just gonna say I want to get to your new music, but I'm curious because we're kind of going in chronological order here. I want to know about this EP that you put out, and then you did the big tour for the EP. and then COVID hit. So you were able to kind of complete that cycle of the touring cycle of that EP. So tell me about this EP a little bit, a big moment from it, and then the tour and where you were when that ended and COVID hit.
I mean, it was so fun to do Dive because like I had met Alex Lustig, who we did the EP with, for another song that I did with him. And then we were just like, oh, like we're like into retro wave right now. Let's just like try to do like a few songs with Alex. And it was like so fun and so quick, and it happened so easily. Like he came to Montreal, we did those things together, and then we were like,
we actually did the songs here, like in my home studio. Yeah, we did the whole EP here.
100%.
Wow. Did you write the new record in there as well? Or the new stuff?
No.
Okay. No. Sorry. Go ahead. But that's cool that it was in there.
Some of them. We're always writing everywhere. But and then for the EP, it was so cool because then, you know, we had released Deception Bay, our second record, a year prior. So like to be releasing an EP like just a year after that was kind of like really fun because it broke the kind of like, you know, first record, second record, maybe a third record. It was like new music right away. And it was like right at the time when we were touring. So, and those songs were a bit more kind of like fun and dancey. So adding them to the live show at that time was like such a perfect timing for festivals. It was just like the absolute best. And it did so well too. And we were just like amazing.
Yeah.
And then Alex is so cool. Right now he's like one of the top Billboard songwriters because he's on the new Drake record.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like a madman.
Yeah.
So I'm just so proud of him.
He's the sweetest. Yeah.
Doing so great.
That's so cool. And then so you toured the record, the pandemic hits. Now this, you know, as terrible as
like,
it was, but it allows
as terrible as it was, I don't think we knew how much we needed a break.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it was insane. Like we had never stopped from the very first moment we released our first music, and it went wild. Like for the past like 8 years, we had been just like working. And like even the moments that I thought I was resting, I wasn't resting. And I realized that during the pandemic, I was like, this is what it's like to feel like actually like rested. And like, so I think it was a great moment also to reflect on like where we wanted to go from there. And I mean, it has been almost 10 years that we started this you know, project together. So I think it was a great moment to just like take a step back and be like, okay, where to from here? And then we started working with a new producer who is LA based, whose name is Mika Jasper. And it was such a fun time to just like go and meet him in LA during this time and have writing sessions with him.
Was that that must have been difficult because I know Canada was pretty like difficult to get in and out of, especially during the early times of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So when do you start working on these songs?
But at that time, the borders were reopened, and we were able to travel. And we did a bunch of writing in LA. We went twice in LA for a couple of weeks, like 10 days or like 2 weeks or something. First time we wrote with him, and then we came back. He came to Montreal, so we also wrote in this really cool big like studios from the 70s. Like it was so amazing. And then we stayed there for like a week and worked more, and then so it was kind of back and forth. We also like finished the album like listening to mix in my place, sending notes and everything, but it was worth it because when we met Mika, we just had this connection with him that was very special, and musically, but also as a friend, it just felt like, okay, that's for sure the right person to work with us on this album. Where we like the same things, we're hearing the same things, and he's so talented. And it was just easy the first time we met him for the first session, which is like, okay, let's try to do a session with him, see how it goes. And Bigger Love was written in like 3 hours, our first single. And it was just like we all were like, okay, what just happened? What happened? This song is fucking fire. And so it was kind of magic and easy, and it's been that way the whole record. It's just like so easy to work with him, and he's like so dedicated to the project and to the songs and the album, and like he wants everything to be perfect, and so it's been a pleasure working with him, and it's really fun also for us to just elevate or sound a little with working with someone different. And yeah, I'm so excited for it to.
Yeah, me too. And it's like I was kind of like, I wanted to be careful about, working with someone in LA, because like a bunch of people do that, and like for next project they're like, oh, let's go find someone in LA, but like Mika is just like, feels like someone who could be from Montreal, and I feel like he has very Montreal energy, where he's just like, so he works so hard and he's so nice and he's so like just our age and just like hanging out, that it just felt like so natural to do the record with him, and it just felt like doing it with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very, very happy.
That's great. And is the record complete? And you're on the
yes.
Okay.
I don't know when this podcast is out.
Yeah.
We're announcing we're announcing the record like in like a week and a half.
Okay, then I'll hold it for a week and a half. So
okay, cool.
So we can talk about
it. You can talk about it, and then I'll just release it tomorrow. No, just kidding. No, I would never do that to you. I'm not that type of person.
No. The record is complete, and we're releasing it in the fall, and I'm so excited because like the 2 songs that we have released so far, like very kind of like, energy.
Borders
like
is
that,
the newest one that you put out.
Yes. And then, but they're like, I'm always such a fan of like darker songs and like moody and kind of like, so I'm really excited for like the entire record to be out and to be able to tour it. Because like that's also one thing that's so cool. It's like the more music we release, the more options we have when we choose what we want to do live. So now it's just going to be like greatest hits tour.
Wow. Okay, so the record's finished. It's you're doing singles, and then you're announcing the record, which will be announced at this point. And then do you have a tour lined up, or are you kind of just still feeling out everything?
We're starting to look into it. It was important for us to wait and make sure that we do like, shows in a block, and make sure that we have a good routing also for the tour, because we have exhausted ourselves in the past, so we want to make sure that we're careful about that this time around.
Smart.
But yeah, I'm just excited for also the record to be out for when we start planning the shows, because I want people to know the songs when they come and visit. So hopefully I'd love to start like, we might start doing like soft shows in the fall to start like feeling it out and like feeling a show, but like I want to go on like real tour in the spring.
Okay. But we will. Our team is already on it, so
it's
gonna happen.
But we don't have shows to announce just yet, is what
right.
But we will.
Do you feel like this record, is there moments on this record that wouldn't have happened if you didn't have like so much time during the pandemic to write it?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I feel like just the distance, but with our own feelings and our own, like that's what I was missing. Just like time to actually rest, so that when I am, and like loneliness and all of that, and just like, and also the weird COVID relationships, like I was in a long distance relationship during COVID, and it got me to write like things that I would not have written otherwise, and just different feelings of loneliness and of helplessness,
I think one positive thing that came out of it is also the fact that we waited for a while before getting back into the process of writing a new album. We reconnected with that part of us that we had it in the process for the first album, where it was like excitement. I'm excited. Like we were excited to do this album.
Yeah.
We were rested. We were like, okay, eager to do it. Can't wait to release it. Can't wait to do shows. And that feels so good, because I think the second album, it was harder because we never stopped in between. We never stopped touring. We never stopped. We had no distance from like on our practice and on our lives and feelings. And when you're always busy, you're not connected to yourself. And so I think this was like a blessing for real in many ways for the project. I think, I think people will love this album. We both are very, very proud of it, and so eager to share it with the world. And that's a really good feeling. It's been a really, really fun process and intense process, but yeah, I think it. I say that for every album, but for me, this is our best work so far. So that's the goal, to always And I think
They
we
progress,
nailed it.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm really happy with it.
That is so cool. Well, I love the two that you've released thus far, and I can't wait to hear the rest of the record. And I thank you both so much for hanging out with me today. This has been so much fun.
It's been fun. It's been really fun.
Thanks for having us.
Oh yeah, this has been great. I have one more question. I want to get an answer from both of you. That's cool. If you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Oh, yes, I do. Honestly, I feel like I should have trusted my creative instincts so much more when I was starting out. I feel like that's the purest and energy that you'll ever have. The urge, when you want to be an artist, there's something in you that's just like, okay, I have this thing to tell, and you have that much confidence because you haven't been kind of like confronted with the industry yet. So I feel like for anyone who wants to start out, like give it your best shot the first time around. Like I feel like I went maybe a little bit too slow and kind of like made sure I wasn't ruffling any feathers, but I think trust yourself as much as you can for when you put out your first stuff. And I wish I didn't have the imposter syndrome as well. Like if you're it's trust whatever you do is my advice, and you can do it all.
I love it. I love it. What about you, Lo?
I think I would say make sure you surround yourself with good people. This work, you cannot do it all by yourself. I mean, you can, but it gets lonely. So I think it's really important to have those person around you that you trust, and that you can talk about your mental health, and that you can talk about your feelings and your limits. It's important to have limits too. This industry can eat you alive. And it's the most beautiful industry in the world, but it's also very dangerous. So I think it's when you start, you want to say yes to everything. And it's important to learn to say no, and to learn to put your limits and talk about them. And hopefully we're going to start talking about that with like more in a more natural way. And I think we're getting there slowly. It's much more open, but I think this is something like people get exhausted all the time. And so if you're aware of it when you start and check in on yourself, I think that's really, really, really important. And that way you don't lose your passion for what you do. And yeah.